Hey everybody, and welcome to Explain This to Me. We are taking a deep dive today into the history of computing hardware.
Yeah, it's something that we just take for granted these days.
It's everywhere.
It really is. But I've always been fascinated by, where did it all begin? How did we get from, no computers to what we have today?
Well, it's a fascinating journey that takes us way back in time.
Okay.
We think computers are modern, but the need to compute, the need to calculate,
Right.
that goes back millennia, before electricity even.
I mean, when you say way back, like how far back are we talking?
We're talking tens of thousands of years
Wow.
to like the earliest tools.
Really?
Yeah. Like picture this, a baboon bone, about 35,000 years old,
Okay.
found in the mountains between Eswatini and South Africa.
Wow.
It's called the Lubombo bone, and it has these distinct notches carved into it, possibly used for some kind of mathematical tracking. It's one of the oldest mathematical artifacts we've found.
A bone calculator. That is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it just shows,
Right.
people have always had this need to keep track of things, to quantify the world around them.
Absolutely. So, a bone. Obviously, we moved on from there.
Okay.
What was next?
So fast forward a few thousand years,
No?
and you have civilizations in the Fertile Crescent using calculi.
Mm-hmm.
These were clay spheres and cones that represented quantities of things like livestock or grain.
Oh, okay.
They were even sealed in clay containers, almost like ancient invoices.
So even back then, people were worried about taxes and,
Keeping track of their possessions.
keeping track of their possessions. Yeah, that's incredible. So when did we start to see something that we would recognize as like a calculating device?
But you're probably familiar with the abacus,
Oh,
a
yeah.
tool that's been used for centuries.
Yeah.
And it's still pretty common in some parts of the world.
Yeah, definitely.
It dates back to around 2700 to 2300 BC
Yeah.
in Babylonia.
Okay, so that's that's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
But it's still in use today, which is
That's amazing.
passive. Yeah, it is. It's a testament to its effectiveness, I think, as a calculating tool.
Right. So we go from the abacus. When did we start to see kind of more intricate devices emerge?
So that takes us to the 17th century with inventors like Wilhelm Schickard.
Okay.
In 1623, he designed a fascinating calculating machine that actually combined Napier's rods,
Oh, wow.
which were tools for simplifying multiplication and division with a mechanical adding machine.
That's pretty ingenious.
Sadly, at least one of these machines was destroyed in a fire.
Oh, no.
Imagine the setback.
Wow. Talk about bad luck. A fire. What a loss for the history of computing.
It's a shame we don't have more of these early machines.
Yeah.
But thankfully, Schickard wasn't the only one working on these ideas.
Okay.
Just a few years later, Blaise Pascal, a teenager at the time,
Wow.
spent 3 years and created 50 prototypes before developing the Pascaline in 1642.
50 prototypes.
50 prototypes.
That's incredible dedication.
It is, yeah.
It really shows how groundbreaking this was
Absolutely.
at the time.
Yeah.
So the Pascaline, this was a mechanical calculator. Was it able to do anything other than addition?
It could perform addition and subtraction.
Oh, okay. So that's a pretty big deal
Yeah.
for the time.
Yeah, and what's amazing is that 9 Pascalines have survived and are on display in museums across Europe.
Really?
Yeah, you can actually see these early machines.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. I'd love to see one of those someday.
Yeah, me too.
So Pascal was a teenager. He was a visionary. Who picked up the torch after that?
So Gottfried Wilhelm von Leibniz, a true polymath, took it a step further.
Okay.
In 1672, he developed the stepped reckoner,
Okay.
which utilized an ingenious stepped drum mechanism to perform addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division.
So all 4.
All 4, yeah.
That's a big step.
It was a major step forward. He even had a pretty insightful quote about how using machines for calculation would free up time for excellent men.
That's an interesting quote, especially today when we're talking about, AI and automation taking our jobs and that kind of thing, right?
Right. It's like they could foresee the potential impact of these machines
Yeah.
on society and on work.
Right. And I mean, the Industrial Revolution was just kind of getting started
Yeah,
around that time, wasn't it? So
absolutely.
I imagine that must have fueled a lot of innovation
It definitely did.
in terms of computing.
The Industrial Revolution created a huge demand for more precise and large-scale calculations,
Okay.
particularly in fields like navigation, engineering, and finance.
So they needed more powerful tools to keep up.
They needed better tools, faster tools,
Right.
more accurate tools.
Right. And so that's where we see people like Charles Babbage coming into play.
Charles Babbage is a key figure in this period.
Absolutely.
In 1822, he designed the difference engine,
Okay.
a steam-powered mechanical device intended to automate the calculation of polynomial functions, which are basically equations with multiple terms.
Steam-powered. That sounds like something out of a steampunk novel.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It was a groundbreaking concept, although sadly, Babbage never saw his difference engine fully built.
Why not? What happened?
Well, funding was a major issue.
Always the funding.
Always the funding, right. And the technology of the time was also a limiting factor.
Right.
The precision needed to create all the intricate parts.
Yeah, it must have been incredibly complex.
It was a very ambitious project for its time.
Right. So even though it wasn't built, his work must have been very influential, right?
Absolutely. Babbage's designs, along with his later work on the analytical engine, laid the groundwork for the programmable computers we rely on today.
Okay, so he was really ahead of his time.
Yeah, he was a visionary.
And then, of course, there's Ada Lovelace.
Yes, Ada Lovelace.
A true pioneer in the field.
A legend.
What was her involvement with Babbage's work?
She was more than just a collaborator. Back in the 1840s, she was already developing algorithms for Babbage's analytical engine. What's even more impressive is that she saw beyond mere calculations. She envisioned computers manipulating symbols and data in a multitude of ways, predicting their future potential.
I mean, she really did see the future.
She did.
It's incredible.
It is.
So how do we make this jump from these kind of mechanical marvels to what we have today? I mean, there's got to be a big leap in there somewhere.
That leap is a story in itself.
Okay.
It involves the shift from mechanical to electronic.
Okay.
And from analog to digital computation.
Wait a minute. Analog computers. I always thought computers were digital.
It's a common misunderstanding. Before digital took over, analog computers were actually quite prevalent.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Like, how do they work?
They used continuous physical phenomena,
Okay.
like electrical, mechanical, or even hydraulic quantities, to model the problem being solved.
So instead of numbers, it's like they're using physical properties.
Exactly.
Okay.
A fantastic example is Sir William Thomson's tide predicting machine from 1872.
All right.
It ingeniously used a system of pulleys and wires to automatically calculate predicted tide levels. Can you imagine how valuable that was for navigation?
Oh, yeah.
Especially in shallow waters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So that's, I mean, it's a computer, but
It is a computer.
it's very different from what we think of today.
It is very different from what we think of today, but it served a very specific purpose, and
Right.
it did it well.
So how did we get from those analog computers to digital computers?
The term digital really refers to the way information is represented,
Okay.
using discrete values instead of continuous ones.
Okay, so it's like ones and zeros.
Ones and zeros, exactly.
Okay.
A key figure in this transition was George Stieglitz, who in 1937 completed a relay-based calculator he called the Model K.
Model K sounds pretty,
It was the first binary adder.
oh, wow.
It used electrical signals to represent ones and zeros, the foundation of binary logic, which is essentially the language of digital computers.
The famous ones and zeros, I knew they were important. I just never really knew why.
They are the building blocks of everything digital. And around the same time, Claude Shannon and Viktor Shestakov, working independently, demonstrated this incredible link between Boolean logic, a system of mathematical logic,
Okay.
and electrical circuits.
So they showed that you could use electrical circuits to carry out logical operations.
It was a monumental discovery.
Okay.
This realization paved the way for the development of electronic computers that could perform complex calculations using binary logic.
Right, so we're starting to see the pieces come together.
Exactly.
And this is all happening like right before World War II, right?
Yeah, this is like the late 1930s,
Okay.
early 1940s. And of course, World War II had a huge impact on the development of computing technology
Yeah, I bet.
because of the need for code breaking and complex military calculations.
Makes sense. Weren't there some big breakthroughs during the war?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
One of the most famous examples is the Colossus,
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
a series of computers developed by British code breakers at Bletchley Park. These were top-secret machines designed to break the Lorenz cipher, which was used by the German High Command.
So this was like a code-breaking machine.
It was a code-breaking machine.
Wow.
The details of their design and use were kept under wraps for decades after the war.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, for reasons of national security,
Oh, okay.
they didn't want this technology falling into the wrong hands.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the Colossus, what made it so special?
It was groundbreaking. The Colossus used a large number of vacuum tubes to perform complex calculations at speeds never before seen.
So this is before transistors.
This is before transistors, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Its role in the Allied victory was significant.
Yeah, Pep.
And it was a testament to the ingenuity of the code breakers at Bletchley Park.
I mean, these were like the very first computer scientists in a lot of ways, right?
They were pioneers, absolutely.
So we have the Colossus happening in Britain. What was going on in the U.S. at this time?
While the Colossus was being developed in secrecy in Britain, the U.S. was working on the ENIAC, which stands for Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer.
ENIC. Yeah, that's like the one everyone knows, right?
That's the one everyone remembers.
It was massive, wasn't it?
It was enormous.
Okay.
It weighed 30 tons, used a whopping 200 kilowatts of electric power, and contained over 18,000 vacuum tubes.
18,000 vacuum tubes. That's just mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
I mean, how big was this thing?
It took up a huge room.
Really?
Yeah, like a warehouse.
Wow. Okay.
But it was also incredibly fast.
Okay.
Capable of adding or subtracting 5,000 times a second.
5,000 times a second.
Which was 1,000 times faster than any other machine at the time.
Wow, that's incredible. So what was it used for?
It was initially designed for the U.S. Army to perform ballistics trajectory calculations.
Okay, so it was a military application.
It was a military application.
Okay.
But its programmability and speed made it suitable for a wide range of scientific and engineering tasks.
So it was a general purpose computer?
It was a general purpose computer.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
It marked a real turning point in computing.
So this is where we really start to see computers becoming more than just, specialized tools for specific tasks.
Exactly.
This is where they start to become more versatile, more powerful.
Yeah, this is where we start to see the potential of computers to do all sorts of things.
Right. So what happened next?
The next big leap was the development of the stored program computer.
Okay.
A concept that fundamentally changed the way computers worked.
Stored program computer. So what does that mean?
Before this,
Well,
changing a computer's program was a really tedious process.
I can imagine.
Often involving physically rewiring components or manually resetting switches and cables.
Oh, wow. So it was a very manual process.
A very manual, very time-consuming.
Okay.
But with a stored program computer, instructions are stored in memory right alongside the data,
Okay.
making programming much easier and allowing for greater flexibility.
So you don't have to rewire it every time you want to change the program.
You don't have to rewire it.
That's a huge advantage.
It was a fundamental shift that made computers far more versatile and powerful.
So who came up with this idea?
The theoretical groundwork was laid by the brilliant Alan Turing in his landmark 1936 paper on computable numbers.
Alan Turing. Yeah, I've heard of him.
But the practical implementation of this stored program concept is often attributed to John von Neumann,
Okay.
who wrote a paper in 1945 outlining the architecture for such a computer.
The von Neumann architecture. I've heard that term before.
It's become the foundation for most modern computer architectures.
Oh, wow.
Defining how a computer's memory, processing unit, and input-output devices all work together.
So his paper was like a blueprint for the computers of the future.
He was incredibly influential, yeah.
So what happened after that paper? Did people start building these stored program computers?
They did. Soon after, in 1948, a team at the Victoria University of Manchester built the first electronic stored program computer.
Okay.
They called it the Manchester Baby.
The Manchester Baby. That's kind of a cute name.
It is a cute name.
What was it like?
It was a small machine,
Oh, okay.
more of a test bed for new technologies than a practical computer.
Oh, okay.
But its impact was huge.
Okay.
It was built to test the Williams tube,
The Williams tube. What's that?
the first random access digital storage device,
Okay.
which was a key step towards the development of modern electronic memory.
So this is how they were storing information.
This is how they were storing information.
Okay.
The Williams tube used a cathode ray tube, similar to those found in old televisions,
Oh, wow.
to store binary data.
So it was a very visual form of memory.
In a way, yes.
Okay, that's fascinating.
It was a crucial step towards the memory systems we use today.
So the Manchester Baby, even though it was a prototype, it was a big step towards practical computers. Were there other computers being developed around the same time?
Just a few months later, in June 1951,
Okay.
the UNIVAC was delivered to the U.S. Census Bureau.
Okay.
This was the first mass-produced computer,
Oh, wow.
marking the beginning of the computer age as we know it.
So things are really starting to accelerate now.
Things are accelerating. The pace of innovation is picking up.
So what's the next big development? What's the next big leap?
The next big shift came with the invention of the transistor.
Okay.
Starting around 1955,
Right.
transistors began to replace vacuum tubes in computers.
Oh, yeah, the transistor. I know that was a huge deal.
It was a game changer,
Okay.
ushering in the second generation of computers.
So why were transistors such a big deal? I mean, what made them better than vacuum tubes?
They were smaller, more reliable,
Oh, wait.
used less power, and didn't produce nearly as much heat.
Okay.
This meant computers could be built smaller, faster,
Right.
and much more energy efficient.
So this is a big step towards making computers more practical.
Absolutely. They were key in making computers more accessible to businesses and research institutions.
Okay.
And then, of course, we have the invention of the integrated circuit, or IC,
Okay.
which allowed engineers to pack thousands of transistors onto a single tiny chip.
Cool.
This was a monumental breakthrough that led to the third generation of computers in the early 1960s.
So this is where we start seeing the rapid progress towards the microprocessors
Yes.
and personal computers we use today.
Exactly. The microprocessor, essentially a computer's central processing unit on a single chip,
Right.
was a direct result of these advances in integrated circuit technology.
So that brings us to the fourth generation of computers, the era of personal computing.
The fourth generation is really defined by the rise of the personal computer,
Okay.
made possible by the microprocessor.
Okay.
A key early example is the Intel 4004, developed in 1971.
The Intel 4004. So that was the first single-chip microprocessor.
It was a remarkable achievement, and it truly sparked a revolution in computing.
I mean, it's incredible to think that something so small can contain so much processing power.
It is amazing how far we've come.
Yeah.
Before long, microcomputers, these small, relatively affordable computers, started appearing in homes and businesses.
Oh.
It was the beginning of the personal computer era.
And those early microcomputers eventually evolved into the laptops.
Smartphones, yeah. Tablets that are now such a ubiquitous part of our lives.
It really is amazing how it's all kind of come full circle.
The evolution of computing power has been phenomenal.
It really has.
From ancient counting tools to these incredibly powerful computers we carry in our pockets.
Yeah.
It's a testament to human ingenuity and the relentless pursuit of technological advancement.
It really is.
But it's not just about processing power.
Right.
The way we store information has also undergone a dramatic transformation.
That's true, yeah. We've come a long way from punched cards in those early forms of memory. What were some of the key milestones in the evolution of computer memory?
In the 1950s, magnetic core memory became popular.
Okay.
It used these tiny magnetic rings to store data and was much faster and more reliable than earlier methods.
Okay, and that was eventually replaced by something else, right?
That's right.
What came after that?
Semiconductor memory, also known as MOS memory, came onto the scene in the 1960s and quickly became the dominant technology.
And that's what we still use today in our computers and smartphones.
Exactly. It's been refined and improved over the years.
Right.
But the fundamental principles remain the same.
It's amazing how all these advancements in both processing power and memory have shaped the computing landscape we know today.
It's been an incredible journey.
Yeah.
And it's still going on.
Absolutely.
We're already seeing the emergence of entirely new computing paradigms, like quantum computing.
Oh, yeah, quantum computing, that's kind of like the next frontier, isn't it?
It's a game changer.
What's the basic idea behind quantum computing? I mean, it sounds very complex.
It's still in its early stages, but it's an incredibly exciting field.
Yeah.
Quantum computers utilize the principles of quantum mechanics
Okay.
to perform calculations in ways that are simply impossible for our current computers.
Really?
They have the potential to solve problems that are far too complex
Right.
for even the most powerful supercomputers we have today.
So this is like a whole new level of computing power.
It is a whole new level.
Wow.
It has the potential to revolutionize fields like medicine, material science, and artificial intelligence.
So it's not just about making computers faster, it's about doing things that we can't even do today.
Exactly.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
It makes you wonder what the future holds for computing. I mean, what will the computers of the future look like? What will they be able to do?
That's the beauty of this field. It's constantly evolving,
Right.
with new discoveries and innovations happening all the time. It's impossible to predict with certainty what the future holds, but it's sure to be an exciting journey.
Well, one thing's for sure. The history of computing is a testament to human ingenuity and our endless fascination with pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Absolutely.
Thanks for taking us on this deep dive. It's been a truly enlightening experience.
The pleasure was all mine.
To all our listeners out there, keep those imaginations firing. Keep asking questions and keep exploring the world of technology. Until next time, keep learning and keep asking. Explain this to me.